I'm Mr. Rosansky, and this is AP Lang Q2 Clarion Call. I have fear in my belly, right? A little bit of fear that some of my homies, just a handful, are going to be a little bit overwhelmed by the infinite possibilities that seem to present themselves on different parts of this exam, and as a result of that, aren't going to do much of anything. And to try to put a stop to that, they've asked, hey, Mr. Rosansky, can you come up with a little template, some sort of universal template that can work for every single essay that we see within Q2, just like the good old days, slang days? And while it kind of disgusts me to make something like that, I've done it right there. Shout outs to that beautiful thing. I'm in love with this template, and I know it's pretty darn good because it comes from the ideas of Mr. Hesse Mescalardo, the absolute best in the biz. So we have this template right here. We've got mock exam question 2 over here. You can kind of check the taberinos up here. I've got 4 different pieces. We are going to look at how to apply this template in the real-time experiences of like how I would go about each one if I were taking the exam. We are going to simulate the writing. I'm not starting this over. We're going to simulate the writing of these things right here together, and I'm going to show you 5 different essays, and then if time permits, I'll write my own fresh on a cold read, but let's just get to this original part. So the main idea of this template is that students are feeling a sense of paralysis because there are so many different things that we've learned throughout the year that can be done. So, well, what do we do? This template resolves that. I have the entire essay mapped out here, but let's go down to a little bit more accessible charty poo. So as we can see in here, we have this very generic thesis. When I sit down to write my essay, if I were doing a Q2, even though I've already read and written these, at least first 5, I'm going to read this little blurb, read this little blurb, and put my thesis down right here. Some of us, I think, are so scared to write the perfect thesis that we end up writing nothing. So to get that out of a system, here's a serviceable thesis that works for literally everything. I know that this is, remember, I've read only so far these 2 things, and I'm going to get my thesis down in a way that probably is going to get me a thesis point. We've got in her didactic. This is going to be our main tone word. You can see, if I scroll up, that it's red. It's red because it relates to this part. Right now I'm developing this macro line of reasoning right here in my thesis statement. Red is to, well, as you can guess, paragraph 1, topic sentence. We are going to advance this idea throughout the duration of paragraph 1, and then macro line of reasoning, transition to point number 2. So I love this word didactic. Then I'm going to put this right here because, as you can guess, empathetic is going to be something that comes into play. Empathetic is going to interact with this notion of a call to action, which is going to interact with body paragraph 2. So I'm going to put these things as a proxy. Now, if you're feeling frisky, then when you're doing this thing, you can come back and fix these words. But I just want us to have something down. These are very versatile words. I've got the word work in the template. You fit the genre if you know what it to be. And if you don't, just say work. We've got the first name and last name. After this moment, we are only going to refer to this person by her last name. Then we are going to go with this first establishes a respectable persona. This first establishes screams to our graders that we're going to be analyzing this text sequentially. We're going to separate this sucker into 2 parts, and first part is going to be about this, the establishment of a persona. Now, just like these 2 tone words, this word respectable persona is a little bit empty, but it's enough to get us to have something. We know it's always going to be something respectable, but hopefully, after we read this text, after we create our body paragraphs, then, if we can come up here and put something a little bit more cute for this. But right now, it's serviceable. As we can transition to our next part of our thesis, we've got this and then shifts to. This again is matching that first establishes so that we can see that we are developing a line of reasoning that's going to organize this text chronologically. We are going to always put a call to action, even though it might not be like some sort of weirdly specific, like go down to the store and buy this, it's 57 cents. We're going to do something that we can force into this idea of call to action. And again, we've got empathetic is to call to action is to all of these green sections in order to raise awareness. Though any shipper could come into this place, I've just found there's this wonderful flexibility that comes for starting with the raising of awareness. Then we're going to hit it an about. Then we don't know what the text is about yet, but I don't want to forget that this is what my mission is, about how women should live their lives by. This is just making sure that I remember that I do have to come back to this part. This would be a big fat L if I don't come back here and add some specificity after I've read. Now, I don't know why I can't tab in this AP Classroom, but okay, everything's working still. I don't know why I can't tab when I'm in AP Classroom. It's absolutely frustrating to me. So I'm going to double space here. Now I'm going to do this really weird. Back down to our templates. I've extracted all the value from this, and I'm on my topic sentence here. I haven't yet read the text. I want you guys to put down your line of reasoning. It would be most ideal this way, because then it's going to give you a purpose for read. Because as you're reading, there might be a sea of cool ideas that are happening. But rather than seeing 70 different things and writing about none of them, we're going to chase this idea of a persona. So to help you out, I would type this before I did anything else. Recognizing her audience's false assumptions about. Now, notice there's this huge similarity between how we're organizing this Q2 with my sentence starters for paragraph 1 for Q1 and Q3. Both of these are going to be about engaging with an audience's misconception and refuting that sucker all in one paragraph, which is pretty fun now. Obviously, they look a little bit differently. I don't know just yet, so I'm going to do something like this now. If you're slow with the brackets, they're hard for me to type. Don't worry about it. We can now put the person's last name, sets up her persona as respectable. As you can see in the template, it says give a little bit of nuance, but now's not the time to struggle and shut down. We adjusted the screen on accident, but everything seems to be working fine. Recognize our audience false X, you said persona as respectable. I want to come back and change this, but if I can't, whatever, everything's going to be fine. In order to strengthen bonds. Now, period. I don't know who really the audience is. Loosely, I have this concept of graduates, but I'll come back to this guy a little bit later. Then it's going to be organized as such. We've got this optional sentence here that's going to be like some general yap. I'm going to type this out, optional general yap. Then I'm going to put the notion that we want to have our evidence 1. Then I know that I'm going to have this optional if-then. Then I'm going to have my transitional idea. This thing is critical. This embodies our micro transitional elements, right? If these red and green sections represent the connective tissue between paragraphs, this section here is what's happening within the paragraph. So I'm going to type him out because he's pretty darn essential. However, let's capitalize that sucker because he's going to be our sentence. Oh, I forgot to start a timer. I'm going to do it now. Yeah, I'll do it next time. Everything's fine. However, now that she has built some credibility by starting to clear up their assumptions, what's fun about typing this out is like you're going to remind yourself, hey, playa, I'm looking for assumptions that are being established or engaged with and subverted. I crush out the rest of this. She can cement her ethos by building up her own identity. This is maybe we were building the identity of something else. Here it is all about her. I'm going to hit it with a little colon. This person is something. I don't know. This is another one that I absolutely have to fit. This is going to be my first layers of coming back is tightening these things up. Then I've got my E2. Then I've got my long short. I don't know why I would type it as long short. Short long. Short then long. Then I'm going to have my concluding sentence in my paragraph. My concluding sentence is going to be just like this. This is going to summarize the eventual examples that I find. Through these examples, then I'm going to hit it with the author's last name. Then I'm going to put this didactic tone. This helps me glue this first word here to the end of my paragraph. What a beautiful line of reasoning that's happening. If you're going through this notion of persona, through some sort of idea of like respectability, authenticity, awesomeness, credibility is built because there's somebody worth listening to, then didactic is always going to work. We're going to be presenting this, right? Then I have the yet just because didactic might have some negative connotation to it, but then this shows the concept of caring, so everything's fine. Don't worry about that. Through this example, the didactic tone forms and promises she can provide a solution to their false assumptions. Again, it would be ideal to clear this up once I know what the text is about, but I don't yet know what she's about, so I'm not going to get caught up in trying to come up with the perfect thing. I don't know why this one is entering in such a disgusting way. I'll do 2 enters here and start framing out my second body paragraph. Scroll down to see what this template is. Now I'm speaking to the concept of having earned the audience's trust. This is what the whole paragraph is about. That engages with what's being said right here. They have something that they don't know. They've built up credibility. There's some trust. Now that I trust, I can force you to act. Cool. We've got this can segue to a call to action in order to promote social progress or personal growth. Almost all of these can be fit into one of these two categories. You can kind of predict which one it's going to be based on what's being said. But if you want to come up with another shippers, you can. But my examples today are going to stem, or maybe the one at the end. The examples today all stem from these two things. I think for this one, I go for social progress. So we'll put that here. We'll choose one in this, and then if you want to fix it, you can. I've misspelled this word, and I'm sure I've hecked up a few other ones, but I genuinely don't care. This is going to be a tremendous product regardless of those things. Then we're going to have our general yap. You don't have to put this if you don't want to, but since I'm framing it for you, I can. Then we're going to have E1. Then we're going to have our if-then. Then we're going to have our transitional idea. This is something that we're going to start mapping out with her audience now recognizing. I don't know what they recognize. She can, whoops, we're going to go for the last name because things might get messed up with audiences. The reason why I'm saying last name in certain parts and he, she in other parts is just because there can be instances like in the Adams text where we have a mother and a son. We can use he and she a little bit interchangeably, but weird things can happen. This person, where are we in this template, can force her audience to answer a question, This is pretty darn fun because you're going to be able to ask them a question that forces self-reflection. We're going to make that one up our own based on some examples, and then it's going to lead to it. We've got a colon, we've got a question mark because we absolutely need to fill this in. We better not forget. Then we've got our if-then if we were to do it. We need our E2, then our short, long, then we've got our final idea, ultimately. As you can guess with that didactic one before, we are going to try to group up everything in this paragraph and justify its working togetherness to do something. The nuance of these, I have the timer up there. These appeals creates the empathetic tone that carries her bias, that some sort of moral goes here, and since the audience trusts her judgment, they will feel pressured. They will feel pressured to adopt that same empathetic stance and work to, we'll put an X here because something's got to go in. So right now, I have all of my line of reasoning articulated. The timer on my video says it's 12 minutes and 40 seconds, but I've done a lot of wasteful yapping. If I were a competitor, I would be at least half that time would be sent away. But now I'm reading with purpose. And what I can do as I'm reading, I can put little pieces of evidence here, putting down my little tone word and seeing how things go. Once I have my first paragraph finished, I will type this sucker out. So now I'm reading the text. As I'm reading this text, I'm looking for evidence that I would like. For this piece, the first piece of evidence that I find myself liking is just this kind of entire anecdote. I like this anecdote. I would put it down with some sort of thing to help me remember it. We've got this name. When I think about what feeling that I would use to attach to this, right, I've already done all this thinking, I see this idea that it's going to inspire in our audience some sort of feeling. The feeling that I'm going for is this concept of somber. If you're going to take little notes like this, you can set it up like this. Then I would read. I could think of my next piece of evidence. Is it going to be something different? Maybe I find them both. Then I come back for my feelings such that I find things that are different. I find my second piece of evidence for this piece, which is going to be this $250 do idea. So I can put this $250 down. I can think about, do I have a line of reasoning that's present? What's going on in this situation? What's going to be the feeling that I engage with? Now, for this one, when we look at our idea, the second piece of evidence isn't too important to have a line of reasoning. We're going to have a feeling here, but I'm always going to force it into this generic feeling of admiration. So all we need is something that we can talk about that would be admirable, and we're going to be set. So I'm going to put admire here because they're admiring the speaker, the concept of pathos, which is being developed. Then I can start making this paragraph. So I have my pieces of evidence. I know what kind of person she's going to be. So now I'm going to sweep through and I'm going to make these a little bit better. So This is my new topic sentence. Man, I made it pretty long. These are going to come in as bold, which is kind of gross. So, the thing that I've changed about this, let's reflect. They don't understand something. What they don't understand is that society is pretty darn rigid. I'm making this assumption because, well, she's saying all of these ideas. I'm imagining that the college girls are pretty darn sheltered because you go to college, you come from a certain demographic. Now, there are outliers in these, absolutely, but that is not the norm. And when you're speaking to the people that need to be inspired to do something. So, this is the concept that I don't think our audience understands, and I'm going to prove it. For this persona idea as I shape it, she's an activist, right? It's better. Why is she respectable? Well, she's an activist with women issues and her culture's best interest in mind. She's an activist with women and her culture. Oh no, both of these are compound working on interest in mind in order to strengthen bonds. So I've got the kind of persona she's developing, global figure, a woman inspiring women, in order to strengthen bonds between. And now I'm going to hit the kind of audience for whom she's strengthening bonds. I've got college graduates, mostly from America, and an accomplished creator from another continent. It just sounds cool to say it that way, so I went for it. Then, since I know what both pieces of my evidence is, I would take some time to think, and then I would arrive at the idea that what would my general yap be? Though it's optional, I find it pretty helpful to have it. If you want to think about like what idea goes here, they're the ideas that you guys used to use before we started hanging out with each other and creating these topic sentences that actually connect ideas. So it's actually kind of nice that it comes in bold first. Her audience is about to enter a world. So this is my general yap. I'm framing my audience to come. I'm framing their ignorance. Her audience is about to enter a world where patriarchy dominates, and they've been sheltered from the most intense aspects of it. It being the lifestyle of this person that I know that I'm going to be talking about, right? This connects to the idea of this person's poverty and the fact that $250 means so much to her, resulting in a mindset where they feel they have to overcome it. Resulting in a mindset where they have to overcome it. Give me a moment. Is that a better word, patriarchy? And they probably have been sheltered from the most, resulting in a mindset where they feel that they have already overcome it. Yeah, they have already overcome it. That they have already overcome it. So this idea is important because I'm tapping into this concept of like in America, there were like speeches in like 2015-ish about like glass ceilings, and I haven't heard about that stuff in a while. So maybe these people feel like, well, they've done it. I know it's happening in 2013, but this 2013 leads to that area. And maybe they were on the precipice of it, of like all of these women's rights happening, and maybe like, well, it's done. So these ideas fused together give me my general yap. Then I'm going to think about my evidence. My evidence, it's going to always fall into this exact template here. I've already done it, so I can replace the idea with this. She specifically mentions her interactions with the old, poor person who lived in treacherous conditions to make her audience feel somber. Then I give a justification, as this person's way of life is diametrically opposed to the experiences of their childhood and future, right? The people in the audience. It's just so gosh darn different. Now, I'm still going to leave out this if-then for now because it's the final piece of the puzzle. Then I collapse this. My transitional idea is already set, but now I need to plug in that little variable that is existing as to like what is their specific persona. For this one, I channeled some Gatsby in this one. We've got, she is within and without the global oppression. Sorry. Nick Carraway is such a dork. Within and without the global oppression of women succeeding financially and spreading opportunity. This is who she is. This is the person that's so respectable, that she is a woman, stood through this, traveled the world, comes back to her home area and gives back opportunity. You can see that that's naturally going to connect with the idea of admiration. So my micro line of reasoning is looking pretty darn good. I got to stop doing that. Then I will copy and paste my Evidenci Alfredo. I use that template that's there to impart this notion. I follow the details that are presented here. I'll replace this. To impart this notion, she details how she gave this woman $250, a generous 25% increase over the ask, revealing that to other cultures, this small amount makes a world of difference, but most people haven't traveled enough to realize it, right? That people in that audience, the same people that I'm accusing of having false assumptions about like it being over, glass ceiling being on the precipice of being broken, right? We're going to have a female running for president in a couple of years. Things might feel good. I still have this short and long-term idea that I'm going to kind of hide and delete it because if time isn't permitting, that's the least important thing in this piece to secure a really darn good score. I've got my first paragraph pretty much finished. I've read through all of these things. I don't know. Yes, I do make this one a little bit more nuanced. With my other examples, I kind of kept them general because I was in the process of creating these. This was the last one that I did, so I'm really proud of its relationship to authentically knocking the template out and creating some brilliant stuff. So through these examples, this is just refusing to participate. Can we do this route? All right, thank you. Through these examples, her didactic tone forms, and she promises, she can, like the tone itself, promises that she can provide more accessible solutions to the reality of the world. So you see that original idea was kind of a vacuous false assumptions, but I've plugged in the false assumptions here. Now it feels less templatey and more of an organic essay. The more you're able to do those things, Nah, it's good either way. I don't want to say that. It's great as it is. It's better than those chumps elsewhere that are going to be writing firstly and secondly. So now I've got the second paragraph, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I am now going to continue reading this second half of the text to try to gather some evidence. Oh, I said this out of order. My bad. That's the way that I do this. But I found with Logically Complete the Text questions that I'm really good at navigating the unknown. I'm going to do better about this as I move forward. For me, for what I want from you is read the blurb, put the template for the thesis, read the piece, divide it in two, then come back through and do this. That's the way that I want to do it. I hope I remember to say it in the future ones. I approach it a little bit more gangster just because these are kind of brain dead. They don't require much. Having earned the audience trust, we've just established that line of reasoning. We've got the social progress. We'll come back to this. Now I'm reading the second part to try to come up with some answers, some evidence for me to use. My first piece of evidence is going to be this herself shadow idea. Then I'm thinking about the idea for this feelings. In this one, I've got the idea of guilty, which is what it's going to be connected to. Then I've got my if-then, which if we're going to drop something, it's absolutely going to be this. Forgot to say this, but I'll come back up here. This thing might need to be dropped if you don't have an if-then, but that's fine. Then I move through the if-then with our audience now recognizing I don't have that idea just yet because I need my second piece of evidence. The second piece of evidence is going to be that thing at the very end, the jump up and down from the GMA and the contrasting idea from her. For this, I think of, I use the word systemic a lot in this one. Absolutely, it sounds good. I've got it through this idea of galvanized. It's going to be my tone word. Short, long is whatever. I can read this, but after I come through with my evidence and grounding, then I'm going to try to knock this concluding sentence out of the park. So I know my evidence that I'm going to use. I have different tone words. I know what narrative I'm going to say, and I can now do my general yap. This is going to be my general yap as I think about what it's going to say. Needs our audience to recognize. I've got a little template for that if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, needs to recognize. This is important because it deals with some fun engagement between the two people from both ideas and feelings. Needs the audience to recognize that society's treatment toward women destroys their sense of self. This is just setting up that shadow thing that so many of you keyed in on, which is really great, and the effect of that shadow idea, and the perpetrators of that shadow idea. Then I think about the way to deploy my next piece of evidence. I've got this for example right here, for example right here. Let's make this a little bit more normal. Extending the person's comparison of herself, a shadow, to women around the world. This is the only way I want to see ellipses. I've cut out, I think, like a word from the OG text. I have no idea. This is charming. The grammatical cohesion runs over it. I've interjected it. Notice how short my quotes are. A shadow to women around the world. She highlights how all the subtle microaggressions allowed in any culture spread around the world add up, making the audience feel guilty. What a fun little idea here. We're spreading the blame to everybody. This is my first piece of evidence. I should have replaced that. Then there's this if-then where if we're pressed for time, he's the one that's going to be following through. Everything else should now work. Now I need to show that they're recognizing something and provide some sort of rhetorical question. The concept of shadow being expanded leads me to this idea that the story is ubiquitous, right? With her audience, I recognize that this story is their story, right? What once started out as this woman who was so impoverished and so dissimilar to them is now kind of like one of the homies, just like them. So they can kind of, just as they receive these feelings, like send back all that trauma. They just might not have noticed it. Or they were lucky enough to not receive it, but the people around them were. Are you comfortable? Forces the graduate to answer a question. Are you comfortable? In these moments, I take opportunities to not just say audience, if I can say something a little bit better. We've got graduates to answer a question. Are you comfortable with letting future generations struggle just because you've persevered? right? It's this kind of like concept of pulling up the rope after you. You'll see it a lot here. Then I deploy my next piece of evidence, the thing that inspired my question. This question is embodied when she relates the contrasting evidence from grandma, who prescribes that girls should not jump up and down, and she who prescribes that a girl should jump up and down as much as the girl wants. So that readers, much as the girl wants, jump up and down as much as the girl wants. So I forgot to put a little quote here. Let me fix that and fix that here. Now, it wouldn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but just since you guys are looking at it, it's there. I've got the concept of galvanized. I feel like there was another thing that I recognized that I wanted to fix. No, that's it. Given that she's already involved with adjusting those microaggressions that create systems of oppressions, galvanized is to this. Man, how many times? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Then we can delete this piece of evidence, the short and long. If I'm going to drop something from my essay, it's going to be that. Then I want to fill out this ultimately and this overarching theme. I think about the nuances that I've now read, since now I've explored the entire piece and I have my final sentence, and I've got this one. Ultimately, the nuance of these appeals create the empathetic tone that carries her bias that people should never be anything other than what they want to be, especially women. And since the audience trusts her judgment, they will feel pressure to adopt the same empathetic stance and work to loudly question ideas that would put women down and generously uplift women in need, right? There's this fun little mirror into the way that she is up here. Apparently I'm just going to leave this bold forever. Oh, just kidding. I remember my old solution. Control X, V, A, C, boom. You got me this time, cat. You got me. One more time. Showbiz, baby. There it is. So this essay, submitted as it is pretty darn sick. But when you're doing this, you can keep your eye on the clock to see how long it takes you. If you can come up with those if-thens, you absolutely can. I will put them where they belong. After the however is where one of my ideas are. If she did not allude, all of my first pieces of evidence are kind of counterfactuals, where I take a moment to think about the rhetoric of her speech, and I do this through the lens of like, I know this thing is good because had she done it this way, it would have been bad. And then I explore that possible reality. I like doing that because then it segues into my however pretty well. But like if you struggle to come up with this, just drop all of this. It's totally fine. Don't worry about it. Everything else is gravy. Then later in the text, after my $250 reduce things, I would have my second piece of evidence. I should read it, not just skim past. If she not allude to this unresolved and graduates rip the graduates away from the good vibes of a normal commencement speech. I'm trying to engage with the rhetorical situation that there are people that are normally like having good old fun, but this part of the speech is pretty depressing. Then the young would have been able to remain comfortable in their achievements and ignore the exposure of the way reality really is. Pretty self-explanatory for that idea. Then through these examples is where I would land my other if-then statement. Not if-then statement, this is going to be my short and long term. The immediate impact of this anecdote on the audience is a feeling of admiration for her generosity. I really think that this one's super important. So in the order of like filling these things in as the timer is clicking down, this is the one that you should go to first. The immediate impact of this anecdote on the audience is a feeling of admiration for her generosity. But a long-term purpose is to get the audience to understand how easy it would be for them to admire themselves, since all they would have to do to change a life is something as simple as pirating a textbook and using the money to change a person's life. Because it was just $250. I don't know. Making jokes is kind of cringe, but I would say this for absolute sure, because they're graduating, so they won't be able to do this notion of pirating textbooks going backwards. So I'm just going to make the subtle joke that they're going to grad school and then move on with my life. That's kind of cringe, though. Don't worry about doing stuff like that. Now, this paragraph is genuinely perfect. This, from start to finish, is such a tight line of reasoning. I still have this that I'm going to come up and fix if time permits, but right now I want to try to interject my if-then ideas into this next paragraph. Again, the first if-then in each body paragraph is that counterfactual idea. I don't think it's that important, but it's in these moments that I use them as vehicles to try to engage with the real world. So rather than doing that one first, I'm starting to realize I should probably do the more important one first. This is my short or long term that comes right before my ultimately. In the short term, readers will feel inspired, right? So similar to my previous idea, but I don't care. Because they can make those same simple corrections easily in their everyday life. And in the long term, the audience will feel a sense of obligation now that they see the simplicity of their actions and the gravity of fixing the future. Now, this idea is pretty similar to the previous one, but everything's going to be fine. I absolutely promise it. Trust and believe. This template sometimes creates the most beautiful products in the world, and other times it creates just really good products. In this one, with the structure of the text, to engage with it in any other way would have required a lot of maneuvering that could have been a little bit difficult. So I've got to find right before my question. This is where this final one goes. If the audience tries to cling to their comfort and not adjust their attitude toward global patriarchy, then they will have to accept the dissonant notion that they know more than a Nobel Peace Prize winner's assessment of the internet-connected nature of humanity. This is where I just try to go, kind of like even tying back to the ethos that was established, her personality of having these things, and it in conflict with the call to action, right? They have to act. This smart person's telling them to act. So there's something unified in all of these, but I'm trying to create a piece, and that would be it. Then I'd come back to my thesis statement if time were to permit, and I would make it a little bit more better. Oh, I should have done the X a long time ago. I got the rest of this. I changed the persona to this concept of worldliness. It just adds like culture and care. I think it bakes into it. I've got the call to action toward female empowerment in order to raise awareness about how women must step out of the shadows and live boldly in society. That kind of engages with the idea down there, and there is some prompt jargon. So that's where that sucka is. That's going to be our first essay, and they're going to... How much time? Man, probably 30 minutes. Okay. Okay, fine. So now we're going to do this with another one. I will model it the same way. This next one that we're going to do is this text. Will not go right for another speech. So we're going to do this one right here. I'll give it 2 zooms. Screenshot this sucker, pause it, read it, get an understanding of how you would deploy the template. I don't care. I'm done with it. So, well, wait, maybe we can, if I pull him out, nah, he doesn't exist anymore. I'd have to make a separate screen for him and then tap it every time. Yeah, it's not going to work like that. So, though this text is up here, let's move it to the side because now we're working in this one that we were talking about, this one that we were talking about. So, again, I would deploy the template the exact same way. I would do it first by reading this little blurb. I've got this guy here. He's a he. We've got develop his argument about the separation between people and nature. Now I'm going to develop my thesis statement. I'm going to try to embody the way that I would actually write this essay. I'll get better through the video as it goes on. I already have this typed up. So in his didactic yet empathetic work, we know his genre here, excerpt from, I think that's a book. So let's just leave work there. That's what I've designed that for, because if you don't know what it is, it doesn't matter. This is an ACE language where we try to identify genre connections, conventions, establishes, back to our template, establishes a respectable persona and then shifts to a, let's type it. Let's time it. I am kind of curious. Reset, lap, stop, reset, start. And then shifts to a respectable, he doesn't shift to a respectable persona, shifts to a call to action in order to raise awareness about the separation, I messed up, I don't care, between people and nature, if I'm not confused, between people and nature. This again, I want to come back to this to make it a little bit better, but this isn't where we're going to fight my fight. You can imagine it's the exact same thing. Didactic is to persona, is to our first paragraph. We've got empathetic is to call to action, is to our second body paragraph. Let's start typing out our first topic sentence. Recognizing his audience's false assumptions about X. This person sets up his persona as a respectable person. Again, we'll come back to this if we have time, but I just want people to get things down in order to strengthen bonds. Just like in our last essay, we'll come back to the strengthened bonds if we have a better idea of the audience, because in speeches and letters we definitely will, but certain times they're just like ignorant, dumb people who need to learn things. So I'm going to hit with a period. Then we know we're going to have our general yapperino here. E1 is going to come next. Let's get our transitional idea down. Our transitional, however, now, remember you drop the however if the previous ideas, if then is not present. However, now that he has built some credibility by starting to clear up their assumptions. Ooh, in the previous essay. Did I hone that? Yeah, I honed that. Live and let live. C'est la vie. I'll make sure I do that for the last one. Starting to clear up their assumptions. He can cement his ethos by building up his own identity. Person is a personality, is personable. He shouldn't not sit like a lump. So we've got our transitional idea between our two pieces of evidence, pretty darn set up. Then we're going to hit E2 as a concept. Then we're going to hit an if-then as a short or long, short, long. Then we're going to have our final sentence in this body paragraph. Sorry if that was off screen. It was too late for me to do 100 practice runs on how this goes, and we're too deep into it to go back through, just like before, these examples, lose didactic tone forms. This, so we're just not stranding some sort of tone word. You can change this to something if you'd like, but you better go back to the introduction and change it. And if there's something in the introduction, it better make sense to something that's within and not just like a random one-off point. It should speak to the body of the paragraph's essence. So just borrow this. Promises he can provide a solution to their false assumptions. That's going to be the transitional idea. Oh no, I did it again. Just kidding, I didn't do it. Everything's fine here. Everything's fine. So now, I wouldn't have read the text yet, having earned the audience's trust. Misspelling there, but I don't care. And you should. And when I'm saying like I don't care, I mean this in the sense of like you guys shouldn't care when you're writing an essay either. Those are not the things that matter. Getting these ideas down, rereading sentences. You're only going to reread a sentence if it's one of the more difficult ones where you're like, man, was I coherent in this? Then you can reread it. But for these little typos, that ain't it. In order to promote. For this one, social progress is probably going to be the thing that I think I landed on, but it doesn't matter. Then we're going to have our general Yaparino. Then we're going to have our evidence one. Then we're going to have our transitional idea. Transitional idea. With his audience now recognizing X, Lau can force his audience to answer a question. Then if you want, you could type out the stems for the evidence, but you don't really need to do those things. The least important things to memorize would be those, but they blend so well too. This question is embodied, man, bars. Then E2, then short, long. Then we've got our little tied all together sentence here. We will type her out together. Ultimately, the nuance of the appeals creates the empathetic tone that carries his bias. That insert the moral. So this is the moral. So it's a that clause. Everything's fine there. I thought there was a little weirdness. And since the audience, if we knew a more specific audience, we'll come back and tweak it. Trusts his judgment. They will feel pressured to adopt that same empathetic stance and work to whatever. So now that I have this, I'm going to read the text, try to find my different pieces of evidence, then let's do all 4 pieces of evidence, and then I'm going to come back to it. So I'd be reading the text now. When I'm finding evidence, I'm going to log my feelings too to make sure that I'm committing myself to something. I have in E1, I've got this like list of people, like writers, researchers, advertisers are going to be my pieces of evidence. I attach it to the feeling overwhelmed. Then we'll have our if then there. I find my evidence 2. What's going to be my evidence 2? What's going to be my evidence 2? What's going to be my evidence 2? Now, remember, you read the whole thing. And if you want to do it as you're reading it, or if you want to come back to it, it's your choice. But remember, the line of reasoning should do your best to try to make disparate points. That last piece kind of just said the same thing every single time. But that's okay. Organizing it any other way would have been really hard. So we've got our little anecdote about lady. When I speak to what feeling it's going to be, this feeling is going to be that feeling of admiration, right? We admire that lady for being so brave and doing what she did. So that work's already been done to me. I can feed it into that. If you want to change it, then fine. You have to change other things too, but that's your journey. I'm going to show you that this one works for everything. Then I've got my idea there. For my second pieces of evidence, I go back looking into the text. I either read the whole thing or I'm doing it as I'm doing it. I've got this irony of TV claim. I consider what feeling I'd want to talk about with this one. Feeling of condemnation. Oof, 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 oof. What a great word. Then for evidence 2, as I go reading into the text, I can find a different piece of evidence that leads to my question that I'm going to ask. The piece of evidence that I would land would be his life versus theirs. His life versus newer generation equals feel somber. Then what I would do is I would come through and I would sweep up my most important sentences. I've read the whole thing. I've thought of my ideas. I could tweak the evidences in these moments. You can do it any way that you want. I'm more of a first half than second half kind of guy, but it doesn't matter. Now I'll start dropping in what I landed for my topic sentence. I changed it to be, or I added the idea of state of people and nature's erosion. So there is the separation between is no longer there because people are consuming it. Says persona. Now I've got this informed cultural critic in order to strengthen bonds between him, his unaware audience, and the fragile world. Oh my God, the poor little Mother Nature. When I think about my two pieces of evidence that I'm putting together, I just want to make a very simple statement about the audience that's present. Sorry, I'll go back up here. Here's my general yapperino. My general yap is going to say that his audience is ignorant of the exploitation. I'm just matching it to this idea. I didn't really feel inspired to say anything more robust. This is one of those that I probably wouldn't have had one if I were doing it for realsies, given the nature of my evidence. Then I have this for my first piece of evidence. He specifically mentions, I accidentally deleted my general yapper. His audience is ignorant of the exploitation. He specifically mentions the words researchers, writer, and advertisers to make his audience feel overwhelmed by the activity, as widespread collusion has been working to fuse people and nature, taking man's ingenuity and using it to consume nature. This is interpolation. If you can't do this quickly on the fly, it doesn't matter, right? Just type A for advertisers. Literally, no one's going to care and no one's going to recognize it. So we move on to what I'm deleting my if-then statement. I'll come back and put him there because he's the least important for this idea. I now am building to a different aspect of this person's ethos. So I have my evidence already, so it's going to be easy to connect these two things. I have that he is building his own identity, an objective, keen reporter. Sure, fine. It's a little bit similar to what I have here in my topic sentence. Oh, I think I did that the other way last time. I got to find the way that I like explaining it to kids because, to be honest, I do it differently every single time. But you guys like uniformity, and this video is mostly for me to realize how I want to try to explain the implementation of this. So be cool, be cool, be cool, be cool, be cool, be cool, be cool. Louvre is an objective. Keen reporter. Then I need to prove this idea, and that's where I get the lady who speaks to his, when he's speaking about his lady. That is where I'll drop in my layer 1 analysis for this. I'll delete the long and short as I'm doing it. To impart this notion, he details an anecdote about his friend who went car shopping, revealing his recognition that nature, becoming a secondary accessory to humanity, is so pervasive that any question of this is one of incredulity. The phrasing on that is a little bit awkward, but one delivered with incredulity is how I would change it. But man, I'm too far past that idea now. Leave it and move on. Then I would have my shorter long term, but I don't have my shorter long term. Then I've got this statement that provided a solution to their false assumptions. I leave that exactly as it is. No changerinos there. Having earned the audience's trust segues to a call to action. Then I have my two pieces of evidence already so that I can consider my general yap that I'm going to say here. My general yap connects these two pieces of evidence under this overarching idea. Needs his audience to recognize, we're spamming that idea every single time. Scroll down for this. Needs his audience to recognize the gravity of humans consuming nature, such that nature nearly no longer exists. This seems to be the thing for them to recognize, right? You see I'm tapping into raise awareness all over the place, but by packaging it in different ways, I think you're going to be pretty safe. Then we have E uno. E uno is going to be, for example, Absolutely. This is a long one. Wow, I really go off. Let me scroll up for a second. Yeah. Chapter 7 of the Great Gatsby. Let's replace the evidence with something good. For example, by presenting a question that exposes the contradiction between Americans' feelings toward TV and the actions toward it, Louvre, I think, highlights the irony that the feeling of condemnation is society. The feeling is society. Highlights the irony that the feeling of condemnation society has. The feeling of condemnation is held by society. Is held by society. I am going to fix that one in both iterations. I don't know what happened there. Is held by society, but the willingness to act on it is not. Interesting. So they're not grossed out by the fact that they're not anything. Making his audience feel the same potential condemnation toward themselves, right? Because you are the audience, you loser. Then I move on to my transitional idea between these. Since I know what my next piece of evidence is, I can set this up in a way that's a little bit more organic, a little bit more natural. I would fill in just the end there with his audience. Now, recognizing the failures of society, he can force his audience to answer a question. What is lost by this blending of people and nature? I don't think I actually engaged too well with this. I fused these two pieces of essays together. Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine enough, yeah. This question is embodied by contrasting the lived experiences. This question is embodied when he contrasts contrasting how his lived experience conflicts with the new generations of utilized irony, so that given that the loss is something the audience took for granted, and the new generation cannot even imagine the old way. Now that I've added this, I am now satisfying my rhetorical questions thrust by engaging with what they were asked. What's to lost? Their old way of life. The taking for granted is baking in the positivity old that past. So I think it might have done it before. We'll delete the if then we've got our ultimately that taps into the theme, a big idea that we might like to see. So let's drop the sucker in and see what I came up with. The nuance. The nuance. Ultimately, the nuance of these appeals creates, because they're appealing, we're appealing to emotion. We're not going to say pathos. The nuance of these appeals creates the empathetic tone. And what I get by that is, since they are perfectly trying to extract feelings from people by asking certain questions, they've engaged with that person's questions. They've done the arithmetic process of empathy, and they're able to demonstrate what's here. Ultimately, the nuance of these appeals creates the empathetic tone that carries his bias that the separation between nature and humans is a choice. And since the audience trusts his judgment, they will feel pressured to adopt the same empathetic stance and work to manifest social parties against consumers in taking over nature, right? Because they're right in the middle of these things. If I were to take more sentences, I might elaborate on this idea in different spots where they might be on the precipice of losing everything, right? Earlier in the text, there was that city park that was giving up, so they've lost a lot of ground. But maybe they could stop things from getting worse. Maybe they could make things better. I don't know. Now I have this pretty good. I forgot to put in my for realsies topic sentence. We're past that. We need to speed this up a little bit. So I'll put in the short and long-term ideas in the way that matters the most. So back to paragraph 1. Before our final sentence goes our if-then statement, because it's analyzing the evidence before it. The immediate impact of the anecdote on the audience is a feeling of admiration for the mom, for the so now what's fun about this is we're talking about a different stakeholder here. This gives us the opportunity to say that the Ridges admire the mom, right? This regular lady just buying a car. The immediate impact of the anecdote on the audience is a feeling of admiration for the mom resisting the erosion of nature. This erosion of nature. Yeah, because it's being consumed, it's being destroyed, this consumption. You can change that word to something else. But a long-term purpose of this person is to get the audience to transfer that same sense of admiration to him, since he has been observant and stalwart against this erosion, right? He's identified it, he's calling it out, he's trying to raise awareness in the greater picture of things. Through these examples, that lands. Let's do our second short and long term, because I think those are more relevantly juicy. This ultimately goes right before ultimately. In the short term, readers will lament the loss of nature as society has seemingly consumed it. But in the long term, the audience will be empowered now that they are aware of the problem, can, like the brave woman, draw the line so that the situation doesn't get worse. This is when I was saying like, oh, this sentence should go on to do something. It kind of is doing it right here. This is giving the possible interpretation that maybe all's not lost and maybe things can be salvaged. These two short and long terms are set. So let's try to find a way to do our if-thens. These are doing those counterfactual things where what if it had been done a different way? It provides me cool opportunities to try to engage with some of the yapperinos that are at the top, my evidence right before that. However, if he had not provided such a diverse group, art, media, and industry that has growing power and culture, then we always want to say our if-then so students feel comforted by the predictability of everything that they see. Then the audience would be able to shelter in the idea that all the change was in the past and nothing is getting worse. So this kind of sets up my idea of getting worse, because if something can get worse, then you could stop it from getting worse. So now we're starting to see a better blend between these if-then ideas. But remember, you just pull the ripcord before having them, and it's at least a 1-3, I guarantee it, right? This thing is so good. We have our if-then for this statement. We already did our short and longs for both, so let's do our second sentences if-then. Oopsies. Let's do our second sentences if-then. Let's do our second sentences if-then. Oh, I'm about to get triggered. Okay, hold on. Just kidding. Everything's a joke. That doesn't happen. Right, so it goes right before the failure idea. It helps develop it a little bit more. That's why it can seem a little bit bumpy without it. But we're here. We're in our second body paragraph. If the audience feels disgust by this feeling, then they have the simple choice of remaining lazily complicit or choosing to turn that feeling of guilt into righteous. So cool. So that's that essay in its entirety. I've dropped those things in. I think I need to go back to my thesis statement to make sure everything's fine there. It's weird when I've been living in these essays, writing and rewriting them according to different templates the last couple of days, because I cannot remember what I have done or what I have not done. Let's see what we've got for our topic sentence. Yeah, it's a bit too generic there. The respectable person needs to change. I changed the respectable to observant because someone who is respectable has the quality of being observant. Sorry, that is something, a reason for which somebody could respect somebody. And then the shift to a call to action against consumerism. That comes down to the idea down below, more nuance. Now this is a beautiful idea, but it was chilling before, right? It was great before, but now it just has that je ne sais quoi about this piece, and how the separation between nature is basically dissolved. So now I'm making my stance. So this basically dissolved is trying to how I'm engaged with the contentions that it's not just like a gloom and doom where everything's gone, even though the end of the piece does seem to make it seem like big ups to the old world, but I don't care. So that is our second essay. Let's move on to another one. Man, that's 2 down. I'm not going to bed tonight. That's fine. So let's do our next piece. We will now shift genres to a letter. Let's do the atom ones next. So I'll put it up on the screen, do a little zoomerino, screenshot, pause, read, plan it out, do whatever you want. I will. Oh, that would be nice for me to leave it like this when I'm doing that. Yeah. So I'll leave it like this. So if you want to like pause and screenshot this, don't get me. That's kind of weird. It's okay. I forgive you. You can take a screenshot of this, write it, do it. Then we'll come together whenever you want to unfreeze me from my internal torment. But let's get back to it. I'm starting to understand it a little bit more. I'm starting to appreciate how to explain it in a regimented way a little bit more. So let's type this sucker out again. Oh, so typing all that was really interesting time. In her didactic yet empathetic letter. So we have idea of genre. So now we're not going to spam audience as it was. We're not going to spam audience as it was. We can do something a little bit different. Now we've got Abby. Oh, in this moment, since we have 2 different atoms, back to the text, since we have 2 different atoms and then father atoms, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the audience in this part. In her didactic yet empathetic letter to her son, Jean Quincy Adams, then I'm going to put in parentheses Jean Quincy Adams. What's so much fun about this is it gives me the opportunity for the rest of this. Adams will be Mama Adams, and I don't have to say Mama Adams. I can use she and her for that. Audience, I'm never going to say audience. I'm just going to say him. And if I don't want to say he or him, I have the opportunity to just say Jean Quincy Adams. But before you do something like this, you want to say the little thingy. So that was good rhetorical moves. Now remember, we're not doing it on that piece. We're doing it on This one, we've got the general yap of used to advise her son, but we're going to do everything the exact same. Abigail Adams, what does she do? Abigail Adams first establishes a respectable persona. Obviously, we're going to hone that a little bit more, but we're just trying to establish some sort of overarching line of reasoning. First establishes a respectable persona and then shifts to a, be careful typing those words. Oh man, I probably already screwed up. To a call to action, in order to raise awareness about her advice. Does it tell us any more? Because you can give about her advice. Nah, that's kind of lame. I need to make sure that I come back to this. This final part is not something that you want to leave stranded. We don't want to be generic in our we don't want to just repeat the prompt. We want to give a little bit of a stance that we're going to be defending beyond the features that we claim to be present, like the persona, the tone, and the call to action. Then, just like before, has that always expanded down when I was doing that? So yeah, that's everything that I want to say there. So recognizing her son's false assumptions about I have no idea. Sorry, I have no idea what the false assumptions are at this time. I don't want to leave this word like that. Assumptions about. Then I'm going to come back to this idea once I've read the text, because I'm plugging all this in before I get started, because I want it to be as comfortable as possible when. I want it to be as comfortable. I want it to be as comfortable as possible as everything's happening. Recognize her son's fallacy. I'm leaving it. False assumptions about something. Adams sets up her persona as a respectable mom in order to strengthen bonds. This one I'll come into and shear this up a little bit more. Then I can have my general yapperino. Then I can have my E1. Then it's going to be my if time permits. Then there's going to be the however. Sorry, he's going to be typed as he is. However, now that she has built some credibility by starting to clear up assumptions, she can cement her ethos by building up her own identity. Adams is, I don't know, we'll read it and find out, apparently. This is establishing that transitional idea between the two texts. Then it's going to be E2, no yapperinos. Remember, E2 is that concept of admiration, so we're really going to want to hit this short and long if we can. Then there's going to be our through these examples, tying ourselves, line of reasoning, back to our tone words, so that we have this cohesive piece that wastes nothing. Through these examples, Adams. Hold on a second. Never mind. Adams is, yeah, it's Abigail Adams, yeah. I thought I was going to be doing this right. Yeah, apostrophe S, because it's Adam. Yeah, okay, my bad. I thought I'd been saying this, these historic, these legendary figures. I thought that I've been hacking up their name this entire time, but no. Through these examples, Adams is didactic tone. Surprise, surprise, the didactic tone forms and promises. She can provide a solution to their false assumptions. Period. Enter. This is going to be our second body paragraph. What are we going to do for our second body paragraph? We already know. We're going to claim that having earned her little baby boy's trust, having earned her little baby boy's trust. It's ugly when it's shaped like that. Let's put him here so it looks, yeah. Having earned her little baby boy trust, Adams can segue to a call to action in order to promote social. It's going to be personal growth. Personal growth is going to be what I go with, because I would imagine that she's trying to make this boy be a little bit better, but maybe I swinge this to social progress, right? We kind of know where the text goes because we read this together in class, but still the principle stands. But no principle stands better than Ms. Bennett. Close second, Sally Summer-Lansky. Trust and believe. Oops, I made typos. I don't care. General yap. After the general yap is going to be E1, where we're going to attach to a feeling. Then it's going to be an if-then. Then there's going to be a with her son. Now, recognizing from this corner something. Let's put an X there so we don't forget. Adams can force her son to do his homework, to sit at the table and do math problems so that he earns Skittles. Based. Answer a question. Question. I messed up the spelling of question, but again, if I were writing an essay, I wouldn't care. I'm past that with my life. We don't set up our examples just yet. E2, short, long. Then ultimately, the nuance of these appeals creates the empathetic tone that carries her bias that some sort of moral is going to go here. And since the audience trusts her judgment, they will feel pressured to adopt that same empathetic stance and work to something. So now I've got everything mapped out. Whatever time that's taken is the time that it's taken. I have a line of reasoning established. So now, it's okay. The line of reasoning is established. Now I'm going to go look to the text to feel this in. What is my persona? What would I say is what she's called to actioning in? So I'm going to read either the whole text and then do section to section, depending how much time or whatever reader you are. Where you divide the shift is wherever you want it to be, right? I usually do it between where I find like a juicy piece of evidence. So I had something here-ish, 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 and then I go for like this wide scope. I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly what I did. So now let's start putting in the general evidences that we are going to use. I've got this father and brother idea, which is going to stem to this irrational. If you want, you could type these sentences out as they're going to be, right? You can absolutely go there, or you can map it out just like this. It's not too much of a waste of time. It's not a waste of time to set it up like this. I've got the some author that she has met idea is going to be deployed here. This is, again, I'm already spamming this concept of admiration. It's built into my short or long term. That's why it's pretty necessary to go into here, because it's really a linking idea to our persona that's being built. Be a little bit weird without it, but don't worry, right? Even without it, it's a cute piece. Let's see if I can put my ring. Short or long, let's leave it as a template just yet. Then I will move on. For my second piece of evidence, I would either read the second half of the text, or if you've already read it, then I would go skimming for some sort of idea that allows for senses of adversity. For this, I've got my Cicero, I've got my Mark Antony. I'm not going to quote all of those people, right? It's very important when you're doing this. There's no reason to have all of that yapperino. Just have the things that matter. Just two figures demonstrates that there is a range. My feeling is going to be inadequate, right? He's feeling inadequate. This is irrational, different senses that are there. Good. Then for my piece of evidence 2, I've got this gloom and doom, war, tyranny, desolation, own native land. These are all going to be ideas that I integrate there. I'm going to put down the idea of dread, short and long term. So I've got my entire piece mapped out, and I'm going to get my most important ideas down that secure my bag for a 1-3. For this, I go after my general yap in evidence 1 and 2, but remember, sometimes my general yap doesn't really matter too much. For this one, I've got this general yap to establish her audience being an angsty boy. I have firm belief that he is a rebellious, grumpy kid who probably just wants to play on whatever their version of the Nintendo Wii was. Her audience is an angsty boy, so now I move on to my second piece of evidence. Why? Oh, I'm in the wrong paragraph here. My bad. Coming up here, general yap, being a yangsty boy, everything that we're reading here, I should fill in my topic sentence, my bad. Let's just undo it. Take, cut, run it back, editor. That's my Erky BB. Xerxes is my editor, but he's protesting. I don't think he's going to want to edit this, our informative video in building. No. We never edit video. So let's go back to my E1. It was this concept of father and brother. Then the feeling was something like irrational. And let me make sure that I put down my first and second. My second piece of evidence was like the doomy, tyranny, your land. And I said that it was a feeling of dread. Then now we're scrolling up to our, actually, I wish I could expand this more. I wonder if you can do it in Blue Book. That's where we're going to go for our third one about Che Guevara, if I remember correctly. Recognizing our son's Falusi assumptions about this. We've got this idea of strengthening bonds. Now let's put it more. So now when I'm thinking about what I'm developing here, there is the concept of her persona. Recognizing her son's false assumptions about the trip being a wasteful demand from an overbearing mom. Now I got these two concepts that are fun here. I've got the topic that he's recognizing and they're having disparate feelings about. And I'm also presenting the idea that he is misunderstanding who she is. This is a really fun one. The template really lands for this. Adam sets up her family persona, as one of extreme refinement. So this is fun because I'm expanding the stakeholder beyond just her and her son to the family ethos. Then I have it with her at the helm. This little traveling thing she's driving. Oh my gosh. So fun. So in order to strengthen bonds between a mother and a questioning son. So now I have a specific audience. I don't think it's weird, right? It's not graduates. I'm not making any sort of crazy reaches that are present. This is pretty darn spot on. So I'm specific here because I can. Then I start developing my general yap, and I'll put down the evidence at the exact same time since you've already seen it. This is my general yap. I'm just restating the previous idea pretty much. He's questioning. I have it there. I wouldn't need it if I had it, if I were pressed for it. She specifically mentions the phrase, your father and your brother, to make him feel irrational as the other members of the family embrace the opportunity to take trips around the world, is what I might say. I don't even know if that is factual that they said that they're already in France. Are they? Yeah, your father and brother. Absolutely. Then we've got an if-then, but we're going to delete it here just in case that's going to be the thing that we dropped. But then we would also want to come back to the however, but that's not too critical. After this, we are going to move on to the idea of her own identity. Adams is a brilliant thinker herself. Adams is a brilliant thinker herself, right? She's a based mom. That's where it taps into that idea of her at the helm and being an angsty boy rejecting a mother's will. Then we use our template for our next piece of evidence. For this piece of evidence, I've got to impart this notion. She details how some author that she has met with relayed wisdom to her, revealing that her authority comes not just from motherhood, but from the laborious traveling, right? I'm putting that idea that she's traveled too, so she's not asking for things that he hasn't done himself, and thinking, just like the men in his life. So there's this like weird idea of patriarchy that I seem to be tapping into, that he might not respect his mama, but I haven't really developed that. Maybe I do in my if-thens, but that would be the least important thing because without an essay, can't be sophisticated. So we got to finish this piece first. Then we've got this little generic ending. Yeah, and these iterations, I didn't come to make them any more spicier, but I like them as they are. Have her earned her widow baby boy's trust. I love it as it is. Then let's start filling in our general yapper. This is a really fun piece. It's crazy that this lady was such a persuasive writer. I guess it's not. My mom's probably sent me some pretty base stuff too. It'll be logged in history, I'm sure, as is this. Adams needs her son to recognize that he is the next American hero. All of the examples that I have relate to this idea. I really like this general yap. The last one was just to have one, but you don't need one if it doesn't represent a significant purpose. I accidentally deleted my evidence one here of what it was, but this is my deployment of evidence one. I'm going to delete my if-then because remember that's the least important if-then. For example, alluding to historical figures like Cicero and Mark Antony. I only grabbed these two. I have a whole host of examples, but I'm not going to waste my time by typing all of this. My time is going to be spent on my line of reasoning. Then my time is going to be thinking about the way to deploy my evidence, and I'm not going to waste time yapping big time. Adams highlights the willingness of these legendary figures to embrace hardship, making her son feel inadequate. Shots fired. You go, Mom. Sometimes people need to feel like they're inadequate so that they build some pride and do better, but it's a conversation for next year with my juniors. So we are on the transitional idea. What is her son now recognizing, and what is the question that she's asking? Now, it's tapping into that overarching idea of like being a hero. It's fun when you have these cool general yappers and have a really good line of reasoning. Everything seems to come together. Sometimes things aren't as good as other ones, but I actually want to take my earlier statement back. It's not because of the template. It's probably just because I really wanted to just spam ideas and secure my bag. So with her son now recognizing the need to overcome hardship, Adams can force him to answer a question. Do you care enough about America? Do you care enough about America to say Then I'm going to introduce the next piece of evidence for this. I derived this idea that she would ask him this, or at least play that self-reflection into him, because this question is embodied when Adams reference is embodied when Adams, referencing war, tyranny, and desolation. Remember this. Why is war interpolated like that? You were somewhere over here. Oh, it was capitalized. My B's. Now remember, this doesn't matter, but since I'm submitting this to students who like pointing out certain mistakes that I don't obviously point out, like the spelling errors, I know somebody would say that, but I'm still going to hear somebody say something, and it's going to make me so sad. This question is embodied when Adams, referencing war, tyranny, and desolation, warns her son of the impending arrival of his own, their being this, impending arrival on his own native land, so that her son will feel dread, given that hardship is on the horizon. That sounds good, huh? So we have done this piece of evidence. We're going to delete the short-term or long-term idea. We're going to fill in this ultimately. Then we're going to come back to those essential ideas to see where things are. For this, ultimately, going for the money, the body yawns, cribs. Ultimately, we're heating up. Ultimately, the nuance of these appeals creates the empathetic tone that carries our bias. That struggle is a necessary birthright. And since our audience trusts her judgment, they will feel pressured to adopt the same empathetic stance. Empathetic meaning like I've put myself in the shoes of great people and I recognize that great people like to struggle and that not everybody can be a great people. This is what empathy is, playa. The choice to embrace how someone feels, as defined by Mr. Rosansky. And set aside his teenage insecurities and learn all he can about diplomacy while in pants. What an awesome ending. This is great. It is both tied to this paragraph, tied to the overarching idea. So now let's come through and drop some short and longs. If I were writing this, since I just wrote this part, I might as well live in the short or long term here for this one. In the short term, Giroir will feel overwhelmed because there was a monumental labor in front of him, but, now I've got like contrasting short and long feelings, right? When they arrive, they arrive. When they don't, I don't care. But he will feel wildly patriotic now that he has been working alongside his family without even knowing it to prepare. Oh, so much fun. It's USA is in his blood. Cool. Let's drop that idea. Let's go back to our other most important short or long term, the one that relates the idea of admiration. We've got it sitting right here. Then we'll put him right where he belongs, which is this: the immediate impact of the words on the JQA. That's a holdover for me, just autopiloting audience. Giroir is a feeling of admiration for his mother, so that her advice is readily received, but the immediate impact is a feeling of admiration for his mother, so that his advice is readily received. But a long-term purpose of Adams is to get her son to transfer the same sense of admiration to himself, since he is of the same nature. I'm quoting earlier in that paragraph. This is a little bit about what's happening here, but with the framing, with the patriotism, we're tapping into different senses, right? This is just familial. The other one's a bit more patriotic, but then at the end, I link them all together. Cool. Then we're going to go for those if-thens. She specifically mentions this. If she didn't allude to the masculine figures early in her piece, the latent disrespect to women, which was common at the time, might allow JQA to shrink from his message. This is what I might type, like, even though it was his mom. What just happened? I don't know. So I'm just going to grab all this and put it here. Just the whole paragraph. Come with me. Come with me. Come with me, first paragraph. Then we'll just leave it bolded, say with your chest. Then for the second paragraph, if her son, now I'm going to put another if-then, a conditional idea, engaging with these two things. A little bit early for that one. It's going to, thankfully it's all bolded. My Control-C, Control-V game is struggling. It's okay though, forgive me. There it goes. So if her son rejects this trial that all great figures go through, then he has to accept that he feels complacent with mediocrity since he will never endure what it takes to be great. Oh, what a loser. So this blends really well. If I were to tweak something, this one is a bit samey to this one, but I honestly, again, they'd love this. They'd be the happiest people in the world if they were to read this. As long as I go back and fix my thesis, I should have done that before, but Oof, since I've already done this every single time, it's scrambled on my end. But let's see what I come up with for the little shift-arinos here. We've got this idea, which is not to be bolded. In her didactic and empathetic letter to her son, Joie, Abigail Adams first establishes a refined persona. I present the concept of refined, not respectable, because she's educated, she's cool. And then shifts to a call to action toward embracing responsibility in order to raise awareness about her advice on embracing struggle is both necessary and vital for the nation. Cool. Let's wipe this one. What do we got next? We will go to... Let's do the Obama one next. So this is on 2 separate pages, so I'll do one click here, and I'll leave it for a moment if you'd like to just kidding, don't screenshot yet. I told you. I'll do it like this now. If you'd like to take a screenshot, now is not the time. Now is the time. You can take a screenshot of this thing right here. Then here's page 2. Page 2. Go for it. You can write this essay. You can practice filling it out. I don't care. Or I can just show you the exact same way. Let's go around. I forgot how many of these that I've done. So, again, this is our piece that we're reading. I would read from an hour and 15 minutes, huh? Okay. I would read the little blurberino tenderino. After I would read the blurb, then I would start filling out my thesis statement. Down to here, or sorry, not down to there. I would read this blurb right here. They all change a little bit over here and over here. So in her, let's scroll down to the thesis statement. In her, say with your chest, in her didactic. I've typed this so... I know the work is a speech. Oh my gosh. Michelle. Her name's Michelle. Michelle Obama. Yeah. Shout out to Miss Gallardo. Michelle Obama. I'll make sure that I get the spelling of her first name correct. Good. If I'm going to mess up something, it's not going to be the first time. That sucks if I did it. Michelle Obama first establishes a respectable persona. Again, I'm going to come back to this and fix it. And then shifts to a call to action in order to raise awareness about X, period, down, recognizing her audience's false assumptions about X. Obama sets up her persona of respectability. I'll go back and change that. Respectability in order to strengthen bonds. I could kind of guess who the audience is, but it doesn't matter. Then we've got general yap. Then we've got E1. Then we've got our if-then. Then we've got our however. Now that she has built some credibility by starting to clear up their assumption, she can cement her ethos by building her own identity. Space Obama is. Pretty cool. Then we've got our E2. Then we've got our short long, which is going to engage with the concept of admiration. Take some of the legwork away from you. Then let's do our whatever thing here through these examples. Nice. Obama's apostrophe S didactic tone forms and promises she can provide. It's unraveling. Can provide a solution to their false assumptions. Then from there, we're going to have our second paragraph. We're just going to outline that cycle. Remember, we haven't read the text yet. We're just trying to get this down so that we can take out the stress away of constructing the idea. And if things go wrong, things won't go wrong. Obama can segue to a call to action in order to promote social progress. This is probably going to be what this one goes. Then I could pick either of those two, and remember I could pick any of them that are there. Then there's going to be a general yap. Then there's going to be E1, feeling and evidence. Then there's going to be our counterfactual if-then. Then there's going to be our, with her audience now recognizing, I don't know what they're recognizing. The audience is doing the recognizing. She was recognizing things about them. They were recognizing things about her and the topic. Okay. Obama can force her audience to answer a question, space 2, E2, E2, then short, long, then our ultimately, ultimately. Our ultimate has loaded the nuance. I don't know if it's on the screen. The nuance of these appeals creates the empathetic tone that carries her bias, that insert moral of the story here. Since the audience trusts her judgment, they will feel pressured to adopt that same empathetic stance and work to, and then whatever it's going to be. Now, couple of mistakes over there. Fingies are needing to wake up. Oh, I don't want to clap. That'd be loud for you guys at home. Okay, everything's working. So let us consider what we're doing. So right now we've outlined our whole speech. We've outlined our whole rhetorical analysis. Everything feels comfy from this standpoint. Now we're going to go through and we're going to try to gather our evidence. You can read the whole thing, right? You could read the whole thing. You could read half of it, right? It's a little scary when it's so long to read the whole thing, but you can read the whole thing. Think of your different 4 pieces of evidence and put them in. You could read half of it. Then you could go to the next half, read until you find you really want to find an early thing, and then, okay, I found a significant thing here. Then I guess we're going to scramble together for the rest. However you want to approach it is fine, but now let's start filling in what the evidence is going to be, as well as what our evidence is going to be, as well as the feelings. So for this first one, I've got this early young people, because even though it's interesting that it says it's for guidance counselors, but she's calling out the young people, right? She wants to fight them. They're going to feel special. They're going to feel seen. And that's cool there. We've got for evidence 2, what do we have for evidence 2? We've got this little anecdote about both she and Barry started out with nothing, very little rather. Very little. This is going to convey some sort of, as we said, this is our admiration idea that's linking into the next one. This is blending these 2 pieces all at once. Different feelings can happen there. Then we're moving on to our second body paragraph. For our second body paragraph, we're going to need a little bit of idea for a general yap, but first we have to find our pieces of evidence. For the first piece of evidence that I'm going to use, I found the concept of preserve and protectorino. I think I neglected very end of the speech. I've literally never read it, because this general speech I made the outline for it in like 7 minutes one time, and I've just pulled this out in the resources, but I bet it's pretty darn good, right? I bet it's good. We'll read the end to see if I miss anything, but I guess I bet I don't. Then for this preserve and protect, I will speak to the concept of being galvanized by a sense of duty, right? Galvanized. Evidence 2 is going to be what? Evidence 2, I'm looking through this list of people. I'll show you the way I integrate that in a way that's not so awkward. And this idea of zealous, cool, short or long, ultimately there. Then I now know the whole piece. I can start reading to see what my general yappers are going to be. For my first piece of general yap, it's just about the audience, the very nature of the audience, because the nature of the audience is very important, because that's the kind of person she constructs her be, is in direct relation to that, right? So if weak audience, strong person. If, yeah, you get it. So I am going to have this general yap here, but unlike last time where I did the general yap in the wrong spot and then forgot about everything, I know that I have to come back to the topic sentence and sharpen that up. So let's sharpen up our topic sentence. Recognizing her audience's false assumptions about how someone's age removes them from a sense of obligation. This is where I'm hitting at this concept of youth. Everything is paired to empower them to do something. If someone's empowered to do something, then they're kind of like disempowered, whether it's like, I don't feel like I need to work, like I used kind of that other idea, or somewhere in between. Doesn't matter. Or the first essay that I read. Obama sets up her persona as a persona 5 as shouts out to Patrick as a relatable civic leader in order to strengthen bonds between a disempowered demographic and a champion of virtue, which is she. So there, I get a little bit rhetorical with the exchange, the people who are having the exchange of feelings for my piece. Then I'm going to deploy what my evidence is according to my template. I'm going to delete the if then because that's the guy that comes in at the very end. If time permits, he's our last one. She specifically mentions the Freiserino, young people to make the next generation feel special, as the revered First Lady is allocating a part of her final address just to them, and she sees them as equals. Maybe I would adjust that if I had more time, but I don't care. Let's drop this, however, up to its belonging region, which is right here. Is it not going to let me? It's going to let me. I have no idea how sometimes, or why sometimes it allows and sometimes it doesn't. By starting to clear up her assumptions, now I'm going to address the specific kind of audience. This engages with the fact that she is way cooler than they thought she was, because who knew that she cared about the kids, right? That she would talk to them. So cool. Obama's a self-made hero. She absolutely is, and that's an awesome thing to go with. From this, I lead into my next piece of evidence, which is the very little. She's a self-made hero. I don't let Barack take too much focus away from her in this speech. Let me re-grab my 2 sentences here since something happened. Go away, you. The first part of the bold is there. So Obama, to impart this notion, details how she and her husband started out with very little, revealing that her greatness was earned. Now, I don't need my feeling in this sentence because I'm pushing it to the next if-then of some sort of short and long term, but that's going to come up later. Through these examples, the didactic tone forms. I don't have any changes for that one, and I would do it just like this on test A. Let them know. Segue to promote social progress. I'm fine with that idea. I want some general yap. When I look at my evidence, I see the idea of empowerment, right? Like if I'm saying in one that they're disempowered, I'm going to say in another that they are empowered. I will take away the bold in both of these so things don't get confusing later. Then I am not going to focus on my if-then. I'm not going to paralyze to do it. But if you already know that you're clear for time and you're in a great spot because you're typing fast listening while you memorize these ideas, then you can take some time to put it down as you're going. But it's okay if you don't want to. For example is going to be what we use here, right? For example is going to be what we use here. For example, through the explicit responsibility the explicit responsibility to preserve and protect Obama. Through the explicit responsibility to preserve and protect, Obama highlights the agency of the listeners, making them feel galvanized by the duty imparted by the nearly militant phrasing, right? It feels like it's a police state. And they've got the batons. And that's pretty cool. I now know what my next piece of evidence is, so I can do a better job at this transitional idea, which is like so many times just like, are you going to be a bum or are you going to do the right thing? With the audience now recognize that they have an active responsibility in preserving her expectations. That's a good one. Obama can force our audience to answer a question. Are you willing to help those who are fighting for justice? For my big old chunky list, I really like how I integrate this because there's a fun range of people. Since I'm trying to do all my evidence and analysis in one sentence, it has to come out like this. I don't have the time to talk about the different kinds of people that are doing it as much as I would like. Let's unbold that. This question is embodied when Obama highlighting the scope of the citizens already engaged in the America she hopes for. Prompt jargon. I have not been mentioning this as much as I should have. Woof. Utilizes tangible examples ranging from school counselors like Terry to students like that person to folks like her dad. This from to is a great way to spam big examples like that. There's a little bit of interpolation, but it doesn't matter. So that the listeners feel zealous in their own quest, given that there's so many people who are already in the midst of advocacy. I really love this one. This is a great piece of connection. I'm dropping my short and long term and trying to get to my ultimately because that would be enough to move on with a great score. As I consider what I'm going to say for my ultimately, the nuance of these appeals creates the empathetic tone that embodies her bias, that action is a responsibility. And since the audience trusts her judgment, they will feel pressure to adopt the same empathetic stance and work to continue social progressivism. Cool. Now, the right way to do it would be to thesis statement, then start filling those things in. My bad. Hey, this video's for me. It's not for you. Don't watch it. Get out. Get out! It's just for me. In her didactic yet... Sorry for yelling. Michelle Obama first establishes a relatable persona, right? So that's where I had this concept of hero, but she was speaking to young, but it was like one of the many people, so just relatable persona. And then to a call to action towards civic responsibility in order to raise... Right, you're responsible for your civic. In order to raise awareness about our expectations for them to engage in the civic process and her hope to move the country in a progressive direction. This is kind of like what I say at the end, but it doesn't really matter. Now I'm going to start working on my second sets of if-thens, because if we were to have to fill it in like this, because you're very bad with time, these are the things that are the least important. This is important connective tissue between these two. The immediate impact of the words on the young audience is a feeling of admiration for Obama, for her perseverance. But a long-term hope of hers is to get guidance counselors, who are the focus of the event and thus the full speech's primary audience, to admire struggling kids for their potential, and for struggling kids to admire their own potential, since they could be just like her. I'm trying to do all my if-thens in one sentence, so weird. Sorry, I'm starting to do all of my complexity ideas in one sentence, which makes for some weird stuff. But this one's so cool, where I'm gauging within the bio that it's for counselors. And part of this is the other stakeholders, which are counselors, which is they do, too, have the responsibility that, I should have said it. Kids feeling sponsored, obviously, to I'm going to go out and go be a cooler person. But sometimes guidance counselors don't foster that environment for kids to step beyond their station. So this little idea is trying to address another stakeholder through the concept of long and short term, even though they're just in the blurb, but not in the speech as that you, right? As it seems to be with that singy little you. That's our first one. Let's go for our second one. In the second one, I have this one. In the short term, the audiences will be comforted as they will be part of a community rallying towards a just cause together. And in the long term, they will all feel fulfillment now that Obama's hope for an inclusive world becomes an inevitability. Ooh, Thanos, snap on him. It's inevitable. I like this one. Community, just cause, we're grouping up. Long term, it's all positive, right? Last time I said some negatives, but negatives can swing alongside with positives. Now I can fill in my two if-thens. Of the two, the first two if-thens is more important than the second. The first one's important because it really helps crystallize the contrast that I'm expressing with this. However, but remember, you can just delete it if you don't have it. If she had instead used a phrase like cute, then these budding adults might have felt disconnected from any message. Disrespected and disconnected, maybe. Disrespected and disconnected. If I were to give a justificatory phase, if it's not self-explanatory, where do I have to add that? For the one I post to the classroom for the boys. And by the boys, I mean all of you, obviously. My bad. I'll work on that. Then these budding adults might have felt disrespected, and disconnected from any message. This idea is, as it adds to the same empowerment, maybe I could have added that statement if I wanted extra clarity, because I'm just connecting it to the general yap with what I'm saying, but I'm not changing anything more. Then I'm going to my final if-then. This would be the least important one and the least important piece of the puzzle. Yeah, after all these reps, I finally got the whole idea. That's all right. So now it goes here. If the audience rejects this explicit call to action, then they will feel cowardly, since they would be like a generation of non-patriots who reject the obligation of upholding the same safety and same safety that they inherited and enjoyed. This is a fun way to drop the idea of patriotism, connecting it back to the ideas in the first paragraph that they are America. The first part of the speech that they are America, which didn't make it into this iteration of my draft, but if I showed you guys my other essay and it was there. But there are a bunch of different essays that you can write, and this one just lends itself to this one that I have. Thesis, topic, sentences, Yapperinos, there she is. That one down, 1, 2, go. All right, so I'm an expert at this now, right? I'll reshoot this whole video again. Psych, just kidding, I'm not. I'll reshoot this whole video next year, right? Next year I'll refine it. All right, that's on the screen. This is here. Why don't you take a little screenshot? This is a weird little text. Just kidding. It's fun. All of this is fun, accessible, easy peasy. Take a screenshot. Maybe try to write a little bit yourself. See how long it takes you. These reps, at this point, I do have the templates codified pretty darn well, but I do look over because I want to make sure that I use the exact same word so that nobody, if they're skipping around, just sees an example like, bro, this isn't, where's the word now? You forgot the word now. I'm severely dehydrated. So I am going back to this tab. Here's this document. This is like for some people, this would be a nightmare where they type an essay, it appears, type an essay, and it disappears. But for me, this is my dream. I'm not even asleep. I'm a lucky guy to be in a position to think for a living. All right. What am I going to type? I bet you know, because remember, we're on this Lord Farquhar speech. So, speech. It's not a speech. In her didactic yet empathetic work, Lord Deborah, I don't know why I'm looking over to Marquardt. There's a memoir. There's an excerpt from the memoir. Let's add the word memoir. Then we've got, obviously, first establishes a respectable persona, and then shifts to a call to action in order to raise awareness about X. We'll come back to you a little bit later. Let's start a round of reasoning, recognizing her audience's false assumption about a topic. I'd bet it's about the Midwest. Marquardt. What is Marquardt? Q's are weird to type. Sets up her persona as a respectable person. Remember, we'll change him as respectable. I can't remember if I've been generically typing respectable or that, but it doesn't matter. In order to strengthen bonds. So normally I wouldn't retype things, but I don't know if so that one I'm leaving that spelling mistake. But for screaming at them with all caps, I would not be doing something like that. So we've got our general yap. We've got our evidence 1 that we're going to plug in. Then we've got our if then we've got our however, now that she has built some credibility by oh, I did it. Dang it. To clear up their assumptions, she can cement her ethos by... Am I doing the right thing? Yeah, I'm doing the right thing. Nothing feels real at this point. Her own identity. Marquardt is whatever she is. Then we are going to move into our secondary piece of evidence. Then we are going to do short, long. Then we're going to be in our final sentence of the paragraph that connects it to our tonerino through these examples. Marquardt, didactic tone forms and promises. Oh. I totally forgot that when I first wrote that. It was with Gatsby Chapter 3 in my mind. An irresistible prejudice in your favor. Believed in you. Oh, that makes sense now. You can adjust the language of that if you want, but I'm keeping it. Shout outs to The Great Gatsby. The greatest thing ever written, besides this template. Take that, F. Scott Fitzgerald. You're dead. Sorry about that. Now, we finished that paragraph, so we're going to move on to the next body paragraph, and we know we're going to be putting there, having earned the audience's trust. I made that spelling mistake there, but that's going to stay. Marquardt can segue to a call to action in order to promote social progress. Yeah, it's probably going to be social progress for this one. Then we've got our general yap. Then we've got our E1. Then we've got quite obviously the if-then statement. Sorry about that. Then with her audience now recognizing, then whatever they're going to recognize, Margaret can force her audience to answer the question, to answer a question. Then, because if not, it wouldn't be punctuated like that. Then we're going to have a question there. Then we're going to have E2. Remember this, oh, I don't know why I'm saying remember at this point. Me remember, you remember, everyone remember. Then we've got our short, long term. Then we're going to hit it with this juicy little it's charged. Ultimately, the nuance of these appeals creates the empathetic tone that carries her bias that moral. Don't watch that show. I haven't. It's just I know about it. Trust her judgment. Judgment. They will feel pressured to adopt that same empathetic stance and work to whatever they're going to work to. So now I've typed out that entire template. I know what my ideas are going to be. I'm very excited about reading this text, and I would read it. I could go first and long and put first half and second half and put evidence as I go. I could do that. I could do first and second half separately. I could do them together. Whatever makes you feel most comfortable in terms of reading a text. No! I am actively I hate this website so much. It's hard. I have to go get my other computer. This website's so goofy. BRB. So goofy. Like, what? And, sorry. I can write essays all day, but dealing with this College Board website, patience is gone. Turkey, can you come here, baby? 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 Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, he's so handsome. He's so handsome. Can you stay on screen and be cute and handsome so that people, if anyone's watching, so that people say, wow, it's worth it. Look how handsome this boy is. He's so big. He's so big. He's so big. He's so, oh my gosh. What's happening? Oh my gosh, what's happening? training goals for Memby. Can't wait to put those grades in. All right. So handsome. So handsome. You're a good boy. Now my essay's going to be gone. Ugh. This is so gross. Man, but he's so handsome, though. I hope it focuses on his handsome little face he doesn't get. Oh my gosh. It's making me log in again. This website is a joke. Is he hanging out with me here now? Guess I'll leave the door open. But then, for response questions, I hope Bailey doesn't wake up. She knows I'm recording. She knows that would be a bad idea. Or not a bad idea. Just, I don't think she wants her sleepy little appearance to be made on camera. All right. All right. So I typed out all the frames. I remember that. Close this computer. I need this for school tomorrow. That's my home computer. Sorry, that's a personal computer that I bought. I didn't just throw like a school-issued device. That would never happen. That would be degenerate. I bought that thing. I can do whatever I want to it. I feel the need to prove it now. Notice this is not a school computer. This is a Galaxy something wannabe iPad. All right. I don't know how we're rallying back from this. I know that I was on the evidence phase, so if you just allow me to put the evidence in as I would do it. So you could, yeah, that's what I was saying. You could read in either direction, whatever it would matter for you. Oh, let's, it would be helpful to... I'll have to put this guy back up. So we're going to put E1 back up on the board. Man, what a bummer. All right, I have to rally past that. It's hard, though, because you work... Okay, that's okay. I'm going to look for my first piece of evidence, and I've got a lot of things to look for in this first text, and a lot of stuff is weird. We've got, as I remember, like the guitar strings. There's so much to talk about, but we're trying to feed this through a very specific lens, and I skip over the imagery. In fact, and my first piece of evidence is going to be the mere mentioning of this I-94. I also remember noticing something pretty clever in this. Then I've got my E2. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Things keep getting worse because I'm allergic to Erky, and I was petting his cute little dandruff. Worth it. Then in the second piece of evidence, I'm just pulling from a host of P3 through 5 allusions to pop culture. The I-94, the feeling that I'm going to do for that is going to be confronted. Oh, what a great word. I should use that one more. Allusions, I like that one. Then in my second piece of evidence, I need something to go in here, and that here is going to be, in this one, I linked to the secondary idea of kinship. This was an old iteration of it. If it had been kinship, it would have been, yeah, the same idea could land, absolutely. So this is going to be that secondary feeling of kinship I'm going to put. I worked toward in the second one. I already typed out my transitional idea, so let's just go straight to E1 and E2 of the next one. Then for E1 and E2 of the next one, we will, E1 is, man, I'm going to sneeze. E1 is going to be the idea of wholly unfit, the shade that the surveyor throwed against them. So we are going to speak to the concept of ignorant as they took the exact same biases that these people have. And then for the second piece of evidence, I've got this square upon square, if I interpreted this properly, that they forced upon this wonderful place, this reputation that lasted forever. So now, as I come through in this weird idea, I'll start with my thesis, and this is in its final form. Remember, there was a more pedestrian version that we had, but after I do all of these, I've got my first idea of like her persona is just observant, very much similar to that one guy who was talking about the separation between nature and people. Then shifts to a call to action against snap judgments. This is like what she's trying. Hey, don't do this thing. In order to raise awareness, I really like this. In order to raise awareness, is actually bustling with character like the rest of America. Now, I didn't do a nice job in this piece. I remember doing that part because I'm trying to stick to this confined structure. There would be a little bit of moments where I'd want to speak to its exceptionality, and if I could have maybe 3 pieces of evidence in a body paragraph, I would do it. But if you're watching this and you're one of the ambitious homies, I absolutely adore you, and I want you to understand that you can riff on these things to make it better, but the essence of these lines of reasoning, they should be captured in what you're doing. So then let's use the topic sentence that I went to. I came back and I honed it, again, to speak to the concept of audience. Recognizing our audience's false assumption about the Midwest being a void, Marquardt sets up her persona as an informed cultural insider in order to strengthen the bonds between her critical audience, and the misunderstood Midwest, right? So I think I did this in another one where I nearly personified that. We had that one text, Rachel Carson, and we made the audience the main stakeholder being nature. This is my yap. This is another cool moment because usually I was trying to do this was an early iteration, I think, that I did. Yeah, that's why it says kinship and not the other thing. I noticed this idea of planet. I would have liked to have done this little analysis from the blurb, but that's where I got this idea from. Her piece's title. I really love this as a concept of blurby poo. It's a little bit complicated, and I would have liked to have taken 2 sentences on it, but given the structure of 1 sentence only, you can't. Then I'm going to move into the way that I mobilize my piece of evidence. She mentions this to make the audience feel confronted as their bias is unfair, and this region is not some neglected Neptune. I'm glad I moved away from trying to be artful with everything that I was doing. But this is just tapping into the fact that Midwest, the distant planets thing, then neglected Neptune, got the N sounds. Don't worry about it. I like it though. Then I'm skipping my if-thens, and I'm going to go straight into my transitional idea with the identity plugged in. He's so cute back there. It's hard to work with such a handsome boy sleeping. However, now that she has built some credibility by starting to clear up their assumptions, she can cement her ethos by building up her own identity. Marquardt is as much of a culturally literate American as anyone, which is so fun. This is coming from the idea that like the people say like those people are backwards and they don't really understand what's going on, but this is trying to hype them up, hype her up so that her message is received. That trust that we work towards is going to be there. To impart this notion, she details a host of cultural references in paragraphs 3 through 5, revealing that like I-95. So this is fun because I'm drawing like a parallel between as I-95 is connected tissue from Midwest to the rest of America, so too is true of her because she's connecting the world to the genuine Midwest. She's intensely connected to pop culture and can drop balloons with the same ease as anybody. Then there's the if-then that we're going to skip. Then I'm going to drop my transitional idea here, a solution to their false assumptions. Remember, all of these could be made a little bit more specific. I just didn't care to in these. Then we're going to land the transitional idea that we are using for this one. Between our macro transitional idea, this is what was the first paragraph, and then moving into the second one, which is pretty fun. Then we need to use our evidence for E1, which is right here. Then from this evidence, let's just read this. For example, by citing an official survey's criticism of the Midwest as wholly unfit for cultivation, Marquardt highlights the institutional slander that worked against the Midwest for so long, making the audience feel ignorant. So maybe I would have developed this a little bit more. Oh, do I use a sentence of yap to maybe do that? No. Let's adjust it a little bit. So I want to develop this idea. Despite the rumors circulating. That's just the original idea. If I had more time, maybe I would change that word from rumors, but this puts that secondary concept that I want of these people are ignorant because they're just like listening to what people say without doing any firsthand investigation, and it all comes, excuse me, I'm very sorry. It all comes from some little jerks. I'm going to skip my if-then and move right into my what am I questioning them with? Let's let that land. With his audience now recognizing the system of unsubstantiated bullying. Oh, I'm glad that I used that word, bullying. Yeah, this was like the more artful one. Rumor circulating. Rumor has it his audience now recognizing the system of unsubstantiated bullying against the Midwest. Marquardt can force our audience to answer the question, what other ignorant beliefs are held about the Midwest? So like if this original idea is untrue, that it was fit for cultivation. What are the things did they not understand? Pretty straightforward. I move into my piece of evidence, my final piece of evidence. This question is embodied when Marquardt references how the state's essence was constrained by its partitioning into square upon square, so that the readers feel somber, given the Midwest was not born of predictable shape, but crafted into one by the government, but I don't care about that. Then, I think I already typed this out. Ultimately, the nuance of these appeals creates the empathetic tone that carries our bias that appearances are deceiving. And since the audience trusts your judgment, they will be pressured to adopt the same empathetic stance and work to champion a more progressive mindset that celebrates other cultures for what they actually are. So let's drop in these short and long terms first. We'll do the one in body paragraph 1 because it connects to the feeling that helps coherent internal line of reasoning. The immediate impact of the words on their audience is a feeling of kinship with Marquardt, but a long-term hope of hers is to get the audience to feel that same connection to the Midwest itself, since its character is not so different as from theirs. This is, you can see, it's that same idea that I carried through in the other ones. I think I just forgot to go back and change it, but it works, right? You can use different words in these moments. I'll leave that up as a testament to that, where the template is good, but it's not gospel, right? You can heck around with it. So we need to put in our secondary long-term short idea because sometimes that provides some cool opportunities to engage with the genuine rhetorical situation. Or the prompt, in the short, readers will feel grief because their mockery of its shapes actually tells a story of something bordering on a kind of colonization. Oh, this is funny. If I had more time to elaborate, it's like they're starting to recognize that there was this like lovely natural place. I would have built up that imagery more if I had like a different organizational idea. And then the government came in. Then I attached it to this idea that in the long term, though they felt negative then, they feel patriotic now. So in this one, I do get to pull a little shift of feelings. It's as unique as the other states. I haven't really built up the individual things that make it unique. I'm just asserting it. But in this piece, I really didn't care to focus on that idea. Then we've got our if thens. If I were to break from the template, I could splice those little ideas in. I've got this if then that we're going to put before there. However, if she did not allude to a taxpayer-funded road that connected the Midwest to the rest of the nation, readers could have continued to feel like the Midwest is a useless region ignored by the government and its citizenry. But that people pay taxes on the road and that the road connects it gives the road ethos, gives the road credibility, and everybody gets credibility from that. Then for my second piece of if-then arenas, if the audience maintains, I say the word bias, which is fun, goes here. If the audience maintains the bias against the Midwest, they have to maintain that their flimsy position was made decades ago by some uninformed, foolish surveyor. So this is like I did it with one of them. Oh, the Nobel laureate, the first one that we read, that you guys did for the mock Q2, where I'm just dealing with like a contrast of this person has to respect them because of the person that they're speaking about. Now, in this one, I'm doing the opposite, where it's like, your position is founded on some dumb guy who's been exposed as dumb. Do you still want to hold on to a dumb belief come from a dumb person? And then that's that. So those are all of the cues. Oh, man. Those are all of the... My belt's getting caught on this. Those are all of the Q2s that I have had prepared. Now, it's 4:18. And I'm so tired, but I'm also tired of people saying that because they're tired, that justifies them from doing the right thing and working hard. So I'm going to type that essay. I need to close this. Close this. Nah, we could use this as a thing that we go to. So that's where I was pulling all these juicy essays from. Then we should expand, or I should log into Blue Book first. Privacy use. Yeah. I don't know what you're tripping about. I don't know what you're tripping about, playa. I need to... No. It's saying it's trouble loading practice exams. Okay. But it's saying that just about the SAT. My autopiloted onto the SAT. So we're gonna do a genuine like read through of the whole of a whole prompt, so that we're gonna do a read through of a whole prompt so that we can see everything come together in a real life scenario of me reading and writing one of these essays. I do know that the prompt for the second one is I know that the second prompt is one about that revolutionary Che Guevara, Argentinian, like involved in like the Cuban ideas, revolutionary, or what, I don't know what the appropriate term for him is. But I've only looked because a student asked me like, would it be a good resource to use this? So I just like clicked through it and I saw that they were just real prompts. So you'll have to trust that I have not, that I haven't like pre-read them. But if you don't trust it, that's fine. Everything's fine. Yeah, so we're tired, but tired's a stupid excuse. We're at the point where you have to accept it. We're not going to sleep tonight. We've got a 4-hour cafeteria grind sesh. Okay. So I'm going to start a timer. You can see Blue Book. You can see the resources. That's all that we need. I don't need where I'm pulling. I don't need that anymore. So that's based. Then I don't need that anymore. Okay. I need my timer. I'm going to start it in a moment. Okay, so it's going to load. I don't need a break. So it'll make sense. I consent. Credit will only be given for responses. Yeah, students have to trust that I haven't read the text. I started reading it. I think it said something about space. So I'm kind of lying. But what's his persona going to be? A Spaceman? Dr. Spaceman? Okay. Oh. Okay. What? Oh, GM Foods. Huh. Okay. So we're going to start our timer. My timer is screwed up. Okay, start our timer. Then we're going to go to Q2, but you would have typed 1. We got something a little bit different. In 1866, an American writer named Melusina Fay Pierce wrote to an English novelist, Marion Evans Louise, I don't know, who used the pen name George Eliot to ask for advice on writing. The following is the letter. So Lewis is our author, who wrote to Pierce. Read the passage carefully to write an essay that analyzed the rhetorical choices they made to convey her message about the development of a writer. Write an essay that analyzes the rhetorical choices Lewis makes to her message about the development of a writer. Her message. So there's going to be silent time here. So this isn't like Marion, it's like Marianne. And then we've got Lady, who's the audience. It's so annoying when you have two of the same like sex people, because you can't use he and she, or he and he and him ever. Your subject object when he, him is himself. Ugh. And then now you've got this weird layer of complexity of, is the fact that they write as a thing going to come into play? So much fun. So Pierce, and it's not even like the way I would spell Pierce. All right, fine. Oh geez, we're 95 seconds in. Okay. In her didactic yet empathetic letter to Melusina Faye Pierce. So now for the rest of this, I can just hit it with Pierce. I am absolutely going to mess up the way that Pierce is spelled at some point. Probably a whole bunch. Now it's Marianne Evans Lewis, I guess. First establishes a respectable persona. Why start there? And then shifts to a call to action in order to raise awareness about how the development of a writer is something. So big X up to that. Am I able to... Man, writing in this confined box is pretty cringe. Can I at least hit tab? Can't hit tab. All right, everything's working against me. Recognizing her audiences, recognizing peer... Oh, I just did it. This is going to be rough. Why would they do this? What? Whatever, I don't care. False assumptions about... it's going to be something about writing. Then we got Lewis sets up her own persona as a respectable in order to strengthen bonds between. So now I know there's going to be two people. We'll come back to that idea. General Yap, E1. Sorry, I spaced out. If then we've got our however. Now that we found love. Now that man, this sucks. It sucks to have two women. It's so disgusting. All right, push it. Now that Lewis has built some credibility. By starting to clear up Pierce's assumption. Lewis, this is so lame, can cement her ethos by building this is so stupid. Ethos, cement is it ethos by building up her own identity. Now it works to do it twice. I don't know if I would need to, but Lou is something there. So stupid. E2. E2 short. I'm not even going to type the short longs. I know that they go there. Then through these examples, Louis' didactic tone forms and she promises Louis can provide a solution to Pierce's false assumptions. Then we're on our second body paragraph. Having earned the audience's trust, Lewis can, let's just go, it works there, but let's just make it tailored. Earn Pierce's trust. Louise can segue to a call to action in order to promote social personal growth. Cutest little sound. Cirky, stop distracting me. He's trying to make me mess up. He's my opposition. To promote personal growth. In order to promote personal growth. General Yap. Then we've got our for example. Then we've got yeah, we'll go her audience in this one. With our audience now recognizing Zing. With our audience now recognizing... Audience now recognizing something. X. Lewis can force Pierce. Goofy little spelling. This is a type. This is a test, huh? To answer a question. Question mark. E2. If then. I'll absolutely get to one of these. In the short term, Pierce, then I will do ultimately the nuance of these appeals creates the empathetic tone that carries Lewis's bias. That's moral. Some sort of general moral statement. And since the audience trusts her, since Pierce trusts Lewis's judgment, they will feel pressured to adopt that same empathetic stance and work to whatever they're going to work toward. All right, cool. Let's read this sucker. My dear madame, I do not usually answer letters unless they demand an answer. Finding the days too short for much correspondence, but busy. But I'm so deeply touched by your words of tenderness and by the details you tell me about yourself that I cannot keep total silence toward you. So they're very busy, but this person was very kind, intimate, so they have to respond. My consciousness is not of the triumphant kind. Your generous joy on my behalf leads you to imagine. My consciousness is not of the triumphant kind. Your generous joy on my behalf leads you to imagine. My mind is not empowered. Joy on behalf of me imagines. So this is shifting. This is going to be evidence one. Because it's saying like it's not what you think. Like they're giving this they're giving this to me on a they're giving this to me on a silver platter because this is a feeling, and I would imagine that the person's going to feel shocked because this isn't how they feel. So that's going to be E1, I think. Exaltation is a dream before achievement. Oh my God. This piece is bars. Exaltation is a dream before achievement. So to exalt, to celebrate, is something that happens before you do something. And when it's finished, the achievement is hollow. This is my life. Who is this lady? I adore her. Right? She's base. We'll do some Googling after, but right now we're in the thick of it. What comes after achievement is rather the sense that the work has been produced within one, like offspring, developing and growing by some force, developing and growing by some force of which one's own life has only served as a vehicle. Okay, and that what is left of oneself is only a poor husk. So that so the creation is a life of its own. It's not really like that you made it, right? You were just used by this thing. We might have some ideas bubbling about this like man-woman thing, like man with a pen name, because this is pregnancy. Besides the vision of something that life might be, and that one's own ignorance and incompleteness have hindered it from being. Besides the vision of something that life might be. Besides the vision of something that life might be, and that one's own ignorance and incompleteness have hindered it from being, presses more and more as time advances. Okay, so the reason that you're not excited, besides, however, the vision of something that life might be, so the potentiality of it, and that you're too much of a failure to have made it so great as it could have been, builds after a product. Wow, this is savage and heartbreaking, right? So after, it just gets worse. The only problem for us, the only hope, is to try and unite the utmost activity with the utmost resignation. To work really hard and accept it, I think. The only problem for us, the only hope, is try and unite the utmost activity with the utmost resignation. Yeah. Does this seem espresso depresso? I think it's less melancholy than any sort of self-flattery. based. The only problem for us, the only hope is to try and unite the utmost activity with the utmost urgency. Does this seem melancholy? How much do we have? I like this for E2. I like this for E2. Because she's based. Because this is where, like, we admire. And this, like, it's any less than something else. Let's log it. I think it's going to be this. Because this is our admiration swing to our if-then. Because how cool is it when it's like, yeah, being depressed or like having this feeling that the achievement sucks, it's as depressing as saying that the thing that you wrote doesn't suck. Gosh, this lady's a better writer than me. She gets it. She gets it. I want to tell you not to fancy yourself old because you... Oh. I want to tell you not to fancy yourself old because you are 30 or to regret that you have not yet written anything. Okay. Oh, I don't have 4 colors. Let's go back to this. I want to tell you because you are 30 or to regret that you have not written. It's my misfortune. It is of misfortune to many. Sorry. That they begin to write. It is a misfortune to many that they begin to write when they are young and give out all that is genuine and peculiar in them. Okay. So, she's saying don't do these things. I like this for my second paragraph. It's just happening early. I feel like this passage is so short. 13 minutes down. Let's read. I want to tell you, let's read the whole thing. That original energy of just like panic, get something down. I'm going to slow it down a bit. I want to tell you not to fancy yourself old because you are 30 or to forget that you've not written anything. Don't call yourself old, girl. You fancy, huh? Don't do it for the men. Men never notice. You just do it for yourself. Girl, you are the coldest. It's a misfortune to many that begin to write when they're young and give out all that is genuine and peculiar in them when they can be no better than trashy, unripe fruit. So people write when they're energetic. People write to their passions when they're young, but they should have taken some time. Or this is a metaphor in saying that they suck. There's nothing more dreary than the life of a writer who has early exhausted himself. Okay. Yes. Latent sexism, right? To say himself, singular, indefinite. Sorry, singular. Reflexive pronoun to refer to writer when a writer could be a boy or girl. Why don't you take this opportunity to inspire your audience? I don't think it's going to make its way into our piece today here, boys. Not with this template. I enter into those young struggles of yours to get knowledge. There's nothing more dreary than the life of yours. The writer was early exhausted himself. I enter... Zerky's outside, so I'm going to close the door because I think you might be able to hear my air conditioning. There's everything in the struggle of yours to get knowledge. There's not much in life than a writer who's early exhausted himself. I enter into... Oh, okay. So then they run out of ideas. I enter into those young struggles of yours to get knowledge. So this person, who is apparently glazed by this person, taps into their youth, into the longing that the person feels to do something more than domestic duties, while yet you are held fast by womanly necessities. Okay. Don't worry. Oh, okay. This is to this. Oh, sorry. I said I was going to read it. Man, I just want to write. It's okay. There's nothing more dreary than the life of yours, yours. Get knowledge, and the longing you feel. Into the longing you feel to do something more than domestic duties, while yet are held fast by womanly necessities for neatness and household. Whoa, girl, why are you shots firing yourself like that? Were men were in Gold's Gym back then? Ugh. Doubtful, right? But I guess they were a little bit stronger. Whatever. Something that I've gone through myself. Bars, this to this, a persona of relatability. Maybe all of this gets dragged back. This versus this. No. I'm thinking of lines of reasoning here. This is like part of the planning process. Don't worry about it. And I know that something of all that I have gone through myself, I have never known perfect. I may have never something of all that I have gone through myself. I have never known perfect health. And I've never known what it was to have close ties, making me feel the wants of others as my own, and to have very little money by which these wants could be met. Something of all that I have gone through myself, okay? I have never known perfect health. Okay, she's sick. And I've never known what it was to have close ties, making me feel the wants of others as my own. Children? And to have very little money by which these... I have known. Oh, I didn't have heard that, but I have known what it's like to have close ties, kids, others as my own, or just like friendships, and have very little money to help people, or maybe kids. And then kids might tap back into this husk idea. But then, again, it's the templates lend themselves to chronology, and this is a little bit too mixing of ideas, so we're going to have to drop something. But remember, this is still a great essay, even though I'm seeing more beautiful things. And in those other essays we saw, right, there were different ways that I would have structured it if I had complete organicness. But, like, those essays are pretty darn good, right? And they didn't take the 440. That's kind of like this, where I'm, like, sitting here yapping and thinking. I'm sorry, not yapping and thinking. I'm literally just yapping. I'm wasting time. I'll go bring Zerky in here, and we'll do another dance for you. Something that I've known... Or sorry, maybe I shouldn't be so cocky. Something for all that I've gone through myself. I've never known perfect health, and I know what it was to make it. Okay. Very little money. Okay. Before that, I was too proud and ambitious to write. Okay. So adversity, or maybe, adversity. Before adversity, she was too proud and ambitious to write. I do not believe that I could write. I could do anything fine. I did not believe that I could do anything fine, and I did not choose to be anything of that mediocre sort, which I despised when it was done by others. Okay, girl. Yes. Oh, man. She was scared to create. So now I'm thinking the development of a writer. She was shackled from creating anything. because she said, I don't want to create bad things like all of these chumps, so I'm going to write nothing. Interesting. So cool. I began, however, by a sort of writing which had no great glory belonging to it, but which I felt certain I could do faithfully and well. I began, however, by a sort of writing which had no great glory belonging to it, but which I felt certain I could do faithfully and well. Okay? So she didn't clout chase. Okay. This resolve to work at what did not gratify my ambition. This resolve, my fortitude to do. Oh, man, this is so cool. This is like the other day when you read The Arena, Man in the Arena, and that just spoke to me. This is as well. All right, College Board, I know I can't take it back. Your website really sucks, but this is cool. This is cool. I appreciate that. I began, however, running sort of in a but which I felt certain I could do faithfully well. The resolve at work which did not gratify my ambition and to care only that I worked faithfully was equivalent to that phrase, using the means of grace. I genuinely have no idea what that means. In the sense of, I have no idea what that means. Was it using, to the old phrase, using the means of grace? I don't know. I'm just pretending like this doesn't exist. Like I can context clue it in, sorry. I can't say this is an allusion to, I don't know. I don't even know if it's, so it's not, it has to be an illusion because then they're not telling us this. Not long after that, I wrote fiction, which has been thought a great deal of. Okay, so this is probably what she wanted to write at the start, but then she didn't, and then she wrote boring stuff. I don't remember what she wrote. And it was not about ambition. It was about working hard. She wrote fiction I wrote fiction which has been thought a great deal of. Oh, I wrote things that were critically acclaimed, but the satisfaction I've got out of it has not been exactly that of ambition. When we are young, we say, I should be proud if I could do that, which is what this girl's saying. Kind of in retrospect, like, I wish I could do it at 30. Having done it, one finds itself the reverse of proud. We're embarrassed by our accomplishments. It almost taps into that as time passes, it gets worse. Ugh. This is one, we're going to make it work, right? And we're going to write a gosh darn good essay, but this is one that, I wish we could just go with it. But that's okay. It's still going to be a great piece, I promise. This is sick, though. I should be proud if I could do that. Having done it, one finds oneself the reverse of proud. Okay. Man, that's cool. 22 minutes. That's fine. I will say no more about myself, except that you must not imagine my position to be at all like Romola's. Isolated, unhappy, married character of a book. Okay, so I am not like Romola, and Romola is miserable. I have one of the best husbands, the most sympathetic of companions. Indeed, I have more than my share of love in a world where so many are pining for it. Mr. Lewis, who cares supremely for science, is interested in what you say of your husband's labors, and he is so delighted when anything good or pretty comes to me that he should think more grateful to you than I am generous, affectionate. Okay, thankfully that's espresso depresso, but this is just saying that like my life is not miserable. Normally the last parts of the quote is matter, but like the development of the writer, I guess you develop yourself in suffering, but then outside of suffering, I guess there's such cool complexity here. We can do our thesis statement. Is not about focusing on the outcome, but focusing on the process. Man, I really want to try to engage with that final statement. But that'll be like a final shipper's idea. And its idea, Elizabeth A. Pierce, this person first establishes a respectable persona. This word, yours in grateful memory. And all this, as much as any. Let's go humble. I'm building this as we go, just, I don't know. And shifts to a call to action. She's acting like the way to write effectively toward effective writing practices in order to raise them about how the development of writer is not about focusing on the outcome, but focusing on the process. Yeah, that's good enough. Maybe we come back to this. Recognizing Pierce's false assumption about just the writing process. But we're dealing with that he's sad. So, recognize Pierce's false assumptions about his state of happiness after what she views is an achievement. Not doing she is so lame. And it's not even a his. I'm just kind of, you get it. Then we need some general yap. So we're going to say that you thought I was trying to be, no, girl. And then we're going to say, yeah, so the misunderstood that's going to engage with this first part is this. But then, so the audience is going to be our thing, but it'll be Pierce is confused about what the development of a writer entails. That's going to be our general yap. Then, let's get that out of the way. She specifically mentions the she specifically mentions the notion that her consciousness is not of the triumphant kind, that Pierce, that's so annoying. It's okay. It's okay. Shh. That Pierce, not the triumphant kind. That Pierce expects to make Pierce feel shocked. And she was shocked because Pierce's entire schema of writing and success being challenged. I guess you would say bias if you were a kid, but it doesn't matter. Then we run it back one. However, now that she builds by starting to clear up Pierce's assumption, Lewis can cement by building reality. Lewis is sad girl vibes. Is sad girl vibes. To impart this notion, she details our perspective. I'm not doing this. Perspective is as melancholy as any other sort of self-flattery. Revealing that prepared to argue. still going with sad girl. Seemingly sad girl. Created by birthing so many works of her. Holla. I'm not going to elaborate on this evidence to impart the she just revealing that in the sense that she's prepared to argue that extraction of essence is depressing, regardless of if you choose to be sad about it or happy about it. And that's really through these examples. There's the forms. Cool. Having earned the trust, consent, we do a call of action in order to promote personal growth. We can just do this entire paragraph. This is all just like, hey, you aren't out of it. Louise needs her audience to recognize that Pierre's development is perfectly situated to become a writer, as Pierce's feelings mirror Lewis's own. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4. Throughout paragraph 4, Lewis highlights the instances of money and health. There's still time to become a writer. All right, so that's 40. I am going to steal a little bit of time from elsewhere. Just borrow an idea from before. Yeah, let's just do the same idea then. If I'm just doing it. All right, so 43 minutes, 45 seconds. Genius. I'd bank that. And there it is. I feel like this is gone now. I'll never be able to, like, can you copy and paste? What's the situation here, kids?